Hi, my name is Tiana, and I chose the story on William Wilson from 1840. This was a short story, which was one of Poe's known tales of a boy that was disgraced. This story does follow a man of noble descent, which he calls himself William Wilson because of his profile in the past. He does not accept the full blame for his actions. So basically, this is a short story of a gentleman who meets a fellow student at his school who seems to, meet his devil. So like a I can't even describe the word, a clone. But in the end of the story, he he has a double life of which comes between him and the object of his affection in Rome. He does stab the clone of his kind, but only to realize that he's killed himself, which is inside. This story was it's a short story, but it's very brief. It gives you a tale of, true meaning within yourself. So when we talk about true meaning within yourself means to find yourself. And I get a lot out of this story just by looking at it. It may be a short story, but a short story can speak to the heart so pure. Just by looking at this story, to find the true meaning within yourself, you have to accept yourself and become honest. I feel that this clone or the person that is a replica of Mr. William Wilson was sent to him to find himself and to show him maybe what he was doing wrong or the bad side of him or just things to clean yourself up. I feel that we often sometimes forget who we are when dealing with other people or dealing with situations in life. So we're going to go throughout life just not really knowing who we are, but you find yourself each and every day by learning new things about yourself. I learned so many things just by going to work and coming home. And then by actually sitting down and doing one of these lessons, I learned so much more about the root of funeral service. So just by going into this field, when you kill yourself inside, that's just killing the true meaning of yourself. You have to find your inner self and you have to know what you're going up against. So back to the story. So Mr. William, he was a boy which lived in a misty village, a look-alike village of England, and he meets a boy who has the same name and like the same appearance as him. So he was born on the same date as well. William's name is only similar to William Wilson. It embarrasses him because it sounds common, but only to find out just during the future that he is in the near future that he is the same as him, and basically he is him. The setting of this of this the setting of William Wilson is an autobiography and relates to Poe's residence in England, such as the village of England, and it's a suburb of North London now, and the school is based on the Manor House School in Stoke Newington. This gives us a background knowledge of why Poe wrote William Wilson and why he sort of wrote the story to acknowledge his own life. So just by looking at this, I had a few questions on this that I had to answer throughout this short story. So the first question was, what was the cause and manner of death of the character in the story you selected? So as I stated before, I think the cause and the manner of death in this story is just basically killing within truth of oneself. So when it states at the end that he finds out that he kills himself when he thought that he killed the dope langer, he really was killing himself and finding himself. So when we find ourselves to know and just to be the honest truth. You have to want the truth out of yourself in order to become successful. So in this line of becoming a funeral director, I have to be honest and open with my peers. I have to be honest and open with myself. I have to be honest and open with families. Families is the number one priority because we come in service and support families who have been through so much during the time of losing someone and actually coming to an understanding of knowing what they want to do and knowing what they want to be able to help their loved one with throughout this process. So just by going through the process of finding a casket, finding the right cemetery, looking at GPL lists, and knowing what you want for your family member, it will be tough for them. But however, we have to make sure that we manage and put our first foot forward, our best foot forward, I should say, and make sure that we're helping families in a way that we're supposed to help families. Now, in addition to helping families, we have to make sure that we are assisting them in the proper way. Just by, us being present, it makes them feel whole. It makes them feel that, they are loved and they are appreciated, and that we as funeral directors, we want to make sure that we are engaging with them and listening. So listening is the number one priority. And that was one of the modules I had in another class that I had to work on. So that was one of the questions in module 1, and then re-answered again in a module 9, that I want to be able to listen more and be more effective, not just in a funeral service perspective, but in my own personal life. When you listen within your job and career, especially the career that we are facing, we would have to want to listen to get to open up an ear and let that family member know that we are here and we understand what they are going through. What will your timeline of treatment be if you were called upon to restore these remains, and would you need to embalm before or after the restorative art methods begin? So this question to me was a little tricky, but the first part of the question was the timeline or treatment be. I think the timeline and treatment for me would be right on. I would want to act with a purpose, and the treatment would be to just first and foremost restore the face. If anything was, if the actual cause of death was, beating to the face or shotgun, we don't know. However, the job and the objective is to restore the face to a point of perspective where the family is able to view. So I think I would need to embalm after, just to make sure all the facial features are all put in place. I will want to sculpt around the chin area. I want to make sure the bone structure is actually try to look as good as the loved one looked prior to them passing. So in any cause of death, you want to make sure that that person is actually, their face is just one whole, and make sure that when actually you're taken into consideration, and do not be honest with the family and let them know, like, hey, look, it's looking good for this person, but it's also looking bad. So we want to make sure that we restore as much of the facial features as possible to make them looking as close to what they look like prior to the death. And then it states, how will the lessons of anatomy and facial proportions as presented in this class apply to your particular case? So the anatomy and facial proportions would apply to this case only because we don't know what we're going to be dealing with first and hands-on. So we got to make sure that any terminology that is used in this class currently is applied to, the cases that we work. Every case is going to be different. Every case is not the same. We just have to make sure that being in this case, we want to make sure that we have an open mind. We know our facial proportions. If we get lost, ask that coworker, ask someone that is, such as Mr. Dominic, that is trained and well aware of how things are, and knowing what we're walking into. Some cases may be more difficult than others. Some may be easy peasy, but we just got to make sure that the lessons will be applied critically, and make sure that we're taking every case seriously. The last question is, what methods and techniques would you use to achieve open casket viewing to the descendant? So back to what we were stating, we have to make sure that, you know, the face is all in one piece to where it can be repaired to the fullest. Now, coming out of this course, I've learned so much, and actually go back and look at some of the modules over and over, because some of them I wanted to get the terminology down packed for each facial feature. However, the methods and techniques I would use is basically referring back to my modules and the terminology of each facial feature. So if something is not right, I want to refer back to my guidebook. However, the guidebook is not always going to be there for me, so I have to make sure that I know or apply hands-on theory as well as possible to make sure that this loved one is the same that they looked prior to coming into the funeral home. My goal is to make sure that if the face is beat up or damaged within the chin and the cheeks area, I want to make sure that the wax brushes and the cosmetic tools that I am using will be applied the correct way, instead of just, you know, doing a sloppy job. So with all this being said, this case, I feel, even though it is a short story, it grasps back into restorative art in so many ways, because when dealing with a beaten face, a gunshot wound to the face, all wraps up into the modules we've been talking about this semester. I thank you for this time in this class. It's mean a lot to me, and I'm hoping to see everybody next semester, and good luck.